I remember exactly where I stood. On Monday, January 18th, 2016, at exactly 3:15 p.m. Attempting to head to the library, I stood at the crosswalk as the Martin Luther King Jr. Day March filled the road with energy, chants, and power. I recall several members waving and calling for me to join. However, I thought to myself, look at all those people. What do I have to add? What difference could an individual possibly make? I now look back at young Matt standing at that crosswalk, and I want to ask him why he didn't join. Does he not know the power he holds? And what homework could not be procrastinated on for just one more day, man? What are you doing? As I reflected, I remember feeling that I didn't know much about Martin Luther King Jr. I remember feeling that I wasn't black enough to stand with others who really struggle. Mainly that I could never surmount to become a social justice champion. So I had to wait for some hero to come save us all. Today, I look back at that crosswalk and I resonate with a lesson from Dr. King's 1965 Selma speech. He stated, "If a man happens to be 36 years old, some great truths stand before the doors of his life. Some great opportunity to stand up for that which is right. A man may be afraid he will lose his job, or afraid he will get shot, or beat down by state troopers, and he may go on to live until he is 80. He is just as dead at 36 as he would be at 80. The cessation of breathing in one's life is merely the belated announcements of an early death of the spirit." As Dr. King described, I was that young man suffering from a dying spirit. That freshman year, I was lucky to have a person who assisted in the resuscitation of my stagnant spirit. My RA, a young man who was also mixed race, he took me under his wing and began to break down terms and concepts. We discussed microaggressions, police brutality, being black at a predominantly white institution, and so on. The greatest lesson he led me to was that those who I viewed as heroes and champions, they were just like him. People who positively impacted fellow beings' lives. They were nothing more than people who raised their voice against injustices and acted when others needed assistance. I began to realize, and I thought to myself, these compassionate people that are already carrying the burdens of racism, sexism, homophobia, Islamophobia, and so much more. So for me to expect them to solve my problems as well is completely irresponsible and unacceptable. I realized that this idea of waiting for a hero when there are more than enough capable individuals to enact change, it was a lie. I decided that I would no longer wait for a hero nor look for some mythical champion. I would be an individual who raised their voice against injustices, acted when others needed assistance, and positively impacted others' lives. This promise stuck with me into my junior year, where I sat in class at Anspaugh Hall. This week's topic was childhood racism. My favorite professor, a sweet old white lady, opened class with what I thought to be a familiar nursery rhyme. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. Catch a N-word by his toe. If he hollers, let him go. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. It seemed as if she made sure to pronounce every single syllable. I scanned the room only to find a sea of puzzled white faces. They were looking to me as if they wondered if I could calmly tread water like them. The waves of confusion forced the air out of my lungs as the professor stated the N-word a second time. My face red, then purple, rage engulfing my entire being. The N-word was stated a third time. The N-word was stated again and again and again until I found myself in the isolated depths of darkness. I instinctively gasped for air only to have fear force its way into my lungs and seize control. I panicked mid-class, grabbed my belongings, and escaped. However, I knew I'd have to endure this all again. It was only mid-semester. I faced fear, rage, and confusion until the semester was over, and then realized I would have to face it all again. Every time I seen her in the hallways or across campus or on the streets. I could not continue to bear these overwhelming emotions. So fearfully, I approached her and we planned a meeting. The day arrived and we sat down in her office. She shared that after I walked out of class, she stopped and said, "I believe I seriously hurt Matthew and realized I may be hurting others as well." She shared that she had been using the N-word as a teaching approach for over a decade. She shared that due to my reaction, she realized she needed to readapt her teaching approach to reflect some well-needed changes. As our conversation came to a conclusion, an insurmountable weight was released from our hearts. A positive impact made to an educational institution at the university level due to two individuals seeking to understand one another. No heroes, just an ordinary person who raised their voice against an injustice. This promise of mine to speak, act, and impact was brought home in the summer of 2020. In the midst of a police pursuit, I found myself standing only feet away from a cornered young black high school boy. With nowhere else to run, the boy froze and a white middle-aged officer roared, "Lay on your effing stomach and put your hands behind your head." Scowling and mouthing off, the boy slowly dropped to one knee and then the other. Cautiously circling around, the officer stood over the laid-out boy, then quickly dropped to one knee, digging into his back. Wincing in pain, he was swiftly cuffed. I then heard tires screeching. I turned to see a squad car jumping the curb only feet from where I stood. Two officers burst from the doors. The white middle-aged officer's face turned bright red and animated as he repeatedly thrust his knee into the boy's back, all the while screaming, "Where did you hide the effing shoes? Where the F is your buddy? Don't give me that BS." Sensing another sharp knee on its way, the boy jerked his body and rolled to the side. Reacting to the boy's quick movement, the officer grabbed his gun. My heart sank. Without a thought, my hands openly raised into the air, my voice boomed, "Chill!" Everybody froze. The officer, looking at me with a face of regret, holstered his gun and rose to his feet. The boy's tense body went from a state of panic to a sense of calm. The other officers assisted in standing the boy up and placing him in the police car. As the boy entered the car, he looked at me one last time and nodded. No champions, just an ordinary person who acted when another could use some assistance. There is no perfect way to combat social injustices when they occur. And there are no prerequisites for standing up for those who could use some assistance. These insurmountable goals of perfection that we fabricate and place upon ourselves can be detrimental to our willingness to act or speak when our fellow beings need it most. I ask that you free yourselves of the burdens of perfection, because lying awake at night thinking of the flawless rebuttal has not helped anyone. It is okay to be afraid, to doubt yourself, to question what difference an individual could possibly make. I've stood at that crosswalk as well. The most effective move oppression has ever made is convincing us our voice isn't significant, that we can't make a change, that we aren't relevant in this world that we are in. These systems of injustices are a collage of many cancers, concepts, and cruelties. These dangerous beliefs are a mosaic of malice, manipulation, and ignorance. These unjust systems and ill beliefs did not come from any one specific source. They came from many different people, from countless different places, and from several different times throughout our history. That being said, we cannot expect for there to be any one approach, any one idea, or any one person to cure these innumerable diseases that are plaguing our communities. We need all of you to help. We must share ideas and experiences, speak up against oppression, and save not only ourselves, but all others who are affected. We all have a voice. We are all significant in this world. We can all accomplish the greatness of positively impacting a fellow being's life. We do not need a savior. We do not need a hero. We need help. We do not need some social justice champion. We need you. Thank you.